Success doesn't happen by chance. It starts with you taking control, making consistent choices, and leading yourself before expecting results from anywhere else. In this audiobook, you'll learn how to master self-awareness, set boundaries, build habits that create momentum, and take ownership of every decision you make. You'll discover practical steps to develop resilience, focus on long-term goals, and lead by example in every part of life. Each chapter is packed with actionable strategies you can apply immediately to see real change in your day-to-day life. By following these principles, you'll create a foundation that naturally attracts opportunities, results, and personal growth. Stay engaged as we break down each step, give you clear methods to implement them, and show how small daily actions can compound into lasting success. Subscribe for more content and start transforming your life today. Number 1. Master self-awareness for daily growth. You start each day with a simple question. Who are you becoming today? That single question shifts attention away from noise and toward the one thing that determines real progress: steady, honest awareness of what is happening inside and how that shapes action outside. Mastering self-awareness is not a soft, vague ideal. It is a skill that can be trained, measured, and sharpened. It is the foundation for every change that follows. The most effective people do not wait for insight to arrive. They build routines that force clarity, expose blind spots, and create space for deliberate choices. This chapter gives practical, precise tools to turn awareness into daily growth, starting now. Start with the body. The body is the first messenger. When stress rises, breath shortens, muscles tighten, and posture changes. Those signals arrive before rational thought. Train attention to notice physical cues immediately. The practice is simple. Pause 3 times a day for 60 seconds. Close the eyes or soften gaze, breathe slowly, and take inventory. Where is tension? What is the breath doing? What is the heart rate? Name one sensation out loud or in writing. For example, tightness in the shoulders, a fast heartbeat, or a hollow feeling in the stomach. Naming interrupts autopilot. It converts an unnamed urge into data you can respond to. Over a week, those 60-second checks build a map of how the body signals stress, fatigue, or readiness. Use that map to choose the correct tool: a 5-minute walk, a breath exercise, or a short focused task. Small adjustments prevent reactive mistakes. Track emotions with accuracy. Emotions are information, not instructions. Create a simple scale from 1 to 10 for intensity and label the emotion precisely. Anxiety is broad. Anticipatory anxiety about tomorrow's meeting is specific. Keep an emotion log for 2 weeks. At 3 set times: mid-morning, mid-afternoon, and bedtime. Write down the dominant emotion, its intensity on the scale, and one likely trigger. Review patterns every Sunday for 20 minutes. This practice does 2 things. It dissolves the drama by making feelings explicit, and it exposes recurring triggers that can be addressed directly. When a pattern appears, for example, consistent low energy after lunch, plan a corrective action: a protein snack, a short walk, or blocking a recovery break. Cultivate the habit of asking clarifying questions. When a decision looms or frustration surfaces, ask, what am I telling myself about this situation? Which part is fact? Which part is interpretation? What is within my control right now? Answer in short, pointed sentences. Avoid counseling language. This is a discipline exercise. Separate facts from stories, then act only on facts you can influence. That separation weakens reactive narratives and strengthens deliberate behavior. Use structured reflection to convert daily data into growth. Each evening, spend 5 minutes on 3 targeted prompts. What went well today? What did not go well? What is one precise action to take tomorrow? Be concrete. Replace vague intentions with a single measurable step. Tomorrow, write the first 200 words before checking email. Repeat the same prompts for 30 days. This routine trains the mind to scan for improvement opportunities and reinforces accountability. The accumulation of tiny, consistent improvements compounds into significant results. Create experiments to test assumptions. If procrastination appears, design a short, low-stakes experiment. Work for 20 minutes on the task, then stop. Track how often the experiment is completed and how often the mind resists. Experiments remove moralizing language about success or failure. They produce data, completion rates, time of day when focus is best, environmental factors that help or hinder. Use that data to arrange your schedule and environment to support your strengths, rather than fight them. Invite honest external feedback. Self-awareness has limits. Blind spots exist. Choose 2 trusted people, a friend, colleague, or mentor, and request a brief, candid observation about one specific area: communication, punctuality, or emotional presence. Ask for examples and one actionable suggestion. Give them a simple form to make feedback easy. One strength, one area to improve, one suggestion. Receive feedback without defense. Record responses and compare with your own observations. Patterns that repeat across observers indicate a real leverage point for change. Practice attention management, not time management. Awareness begins with control over focus. Identify 3 daily distractors and place a small obstacle between you and each one. If the distractor is social media, remove the apps from the phone home screen or use a dedicated website blocker for scheduled deep work slots. If the distractor is reactive email checking, close email and set 2 times for processing. Conscious removal of easy distractions is not deprivation. It is the creation of conditions that allow awareness to emerge and tasks to be done with presence. Develop a short morning ritual that primes clarity. It need not be long. 10 minutes is enough, a recommended sequence. 2 minutes of focused breathing to ground attention. 3 minutes of writing 1 sentence about the day's top priority. 5 minutes of reading a short passage that affirms values or a clear goal. The ritual signals to the mind that the day will be governed by intention rather than habit. The physical sensations of the breath, the pen on paper, and the texture of the page anchor the ritual in the body and memory. Over time, this sequence becomes a reliable trigger for present purposeful action. Build a daily decision rule for small choices. Many people waste willpower on trivial decisions. Create a standard for recurring categories: wardrobe, meals, exercise time, email processing. For example, choose 3 outfits for work and rotate them, or declare that lunch will always be a prepared salad unless there is a meeting. Reduce the number of decisions that require active will. The mind can then allocate attention to novel challenges. Awareness improves when cognitive load does not drain the system. Learn to observe thoughts without immediate action. Mindfulness practice trains this capacity. A brief exercise: sit for 5 minutes. Notice a thought. Label it planning, worry, memory, and return to the breath. Do not judge thoughts. The goal is to experience the separation between thought and behavior. Over time, this produces a critical advantage: the ability to notice a destructive thought pattern and choose a different response. This is the essence of leadership over self. Use concrete markers to measure progress. Awareness without measurement drifts. Choose one metric that matters for the month. Hours focused on deep work. Number of nights with at least 7 hours of sleep. Completion rate of planned workouts. Track it daily. Visualize the number in a small chart or a dedicated cell in a notebook. Numbers provide truth. They reveal trends that feelings can obscure. Handle setbacks with a protocol. When a bad decision or emotional overflow occurs, follow a fixed 5-step recovery process. Stop, breathe for 30 seconds, record the trigger and the choice made, identify the next smallest corrective action, and schedule a follow-up check. This protocol removes drama and creates clarity. The goal is not perfection. The goal is steady return to alignment. Make values visible. Write 5 core values on a small card and carry it or place it where it can be seen during work. Values function as a litmus test for daily choices. When stuck, consult the card and ask which option aligns with these values. Action becomes simpler when filtered through a clear standard. Anchor awareness to sensory detail to make it vivid. Describe the environment in precise terms. The chill of the air when stepping outside, the weight of the mug in the hand, the sound of feet in the hallway. Sensory specifics ground the mind in the present and cut through abstraction. Use sensory anchors during the 5-minute checks and evening reflections to make observations concrete and memorable. Finally, accept the steady, patient pace of growth. Self-awareness grows like a trained muscle. It strengthens through repetition, honest feedback, and measured experiments. The payoff appears in small wins, fewer impulsive reactions, clearer priorities, more consistent output. Those small wins accumulate into the kind of quiet authority that changes outcomes without drama. Commit to the daily practices described here. Start with the 60-second body checks, the 3 daily emotion logs, and the 5-minute evening reflection. Add 1 other practice each week and measure the effect. The combination of precise attention, structured reflection, and disciplined experiments turns awareness into reliable action. Over time, success no longer feels like a random visitor. It becomes the natural consequence of a person who understands their inner world and guides their life from that center. Number 2. Set boundaries to protect energy. Energy is one of the most valuable resources a person has, yet it is often treated as if it were endless. Every interaction, task, and decision draws from it, and without conscious management, it can be depleted faster than it is replenished. Protecting energy is not selfish. It is essential for sustaining focus, creativity, and effectiveness. Setting boundaries is the mechanism by which people safeguard this finite resource. Boundaries do not just exist in theory. They are practical, daily tools for ensuring that effort is directed where it matters most, and that the mind and body remain resilient. Learning to establish and maintain these boundaries transforms how life is experienced, turning chaos and fatigue into clarity and strength. Begin by observing where energy leaks occur. The first step is not to impose strict limits immediately, but to recognize the drains. Notice moments when attention fades, irritability rises, or exhaustion comes faster than expected. These are signals of overextension. Record 3 categories of energy drains over 1 week. People who leave you drained, tasks that sap focus without tangible results, and habits that create stress rather than efficiency. Tracking these drains provides a map for where boundaries are needed. Awareness of the problem is always the precursor to a solution. Once drains are identified, define what is acceptable and what is not. Boundaries require clarity. It is not enough to feel tired or frustrated. You must articulate limits in concrete terms. This can take many forms: committing to certain work hours, declining requests that do not align with priorities, or establishing phone-free times to protect mental space. Each boundary should have a clear rule and a rationale that is easy to remember. The more specific and observable the rule, the easier it becomes to enforce without guilt or negotiation. Learn the power of saying no with precision. Many people equate refusal with rejection, but in reality, a well-defined no protects capacity for high-value action. Practice saying no without over-explaining or apologizing unnecessarily. A concise statement paired with a brief explanation if needed communicates limits respectfully. For example, declining a late meeting with, "I am focusing on priority projects at this time," is factual, direct, and does not invite debate. This approach strengthens confidence and signals to others that your time is structured intentionally rather than negotiable. Physical spaces influence energy as much as social interactions. Create environments that support rather than drain vitality. Organize workspaces to minimize distractions and sensory overload. Separate areas for different activities if possible. A specific location for focused work, another for relaxation or social interaction. Use lighting, sound, and even scent intentionally to shape energy levels. Small adjustments like keeping a clear desk or controlling background noise have a measurable impact on stamina and concentration. The body responds to order and predictability, which reinforces mental boundaries naturally. Boundaries extend to digital spaces as well. Technology can be one of the most subtle energy drains because it continuously demands attention. Set limits on notifications, social media, and email checking. Batch digital tasks into focused periods and avoid reactive scrolling. Consider creating no-screen blocks during which mental energy is preserved for creative work or rest. The more conscious control exercised over these digital intrusions, the more mental clarity emerges. Technology is a tool, not a master, and boundaries are the method by which control is maintained. Relationships require particular attention because human energy exchanges are constant and often invisible. Evaluate which relationships consistently energize and which drain. Invest in connections that provide mutual support, encouragement, and constructive challenge. Limit or restructure interactions that are one-sided, critical, or demanding beyond reason. Set expectations for communication frequency, availability, and tone. Healthy boundaries in relationships do not close off connection. They cultivate meaningful engagement by ensuring that exchanges are not exhausting or chaotic. Boundaries also involve protecting time, which is the currency of energy. Use a scheduling strategy that accounts for natural rhythms of productivity and rest. Identify peak periods of focus and reserve them for high-value work. Protect breaks and downtime as strictly as meetings or deadlines. Avoid filling every hour with tasks under the guise of productivity. This often backfires by reducing overall effectiveness. Time boundaries signal to the mind that energy is finite and precious, creating a framework within which sustainable effort is possible. Emotional boundaries are equally critical. Practice separating personal responsibility from others' moods and expectations. Recognize that absorbing others' negativity is optional, not inevitable. Emotional energy is finite, and choosing what to internalize prevents burnout and maintains clarity of thought. Techniques such as brief pauses before responding, conscious detachment from conflict, or even journaling reactions before discussion help maintain composure and protect internal equilibrium. Emotional boundaries enable consistent performance and preserve well-being. Monitoring and adjusting boundaries is an ongoing process. As life circumstances evolve, so too must the limits that protect energy. Regular review allows detection of creeping overextension, overlooked drains, or new stresses. Schedule weekly reflection sessions to evaluate what boundaries worked, which areas need reinforcement, and where further limits are required. This process transforms boundary setting from a reactive measure into a proactive life strategy. Awareness and adaptation ensure that energy protection remains aligned with goals and responsibilities. Practical routines reinforce boundaries. Begin each day by reviewing the top 3 priorities, then identify potential energy drains and consciously decide how to respond to them. During the day, pause periodically to assess whether boundaries are being respected, is focus intact, are tasks aligned with goals, and is stress manageable. Adjust immediately when signs of drift appear. This iterative approach builds discipline and prevents slow erosion of energy reserves. Boundaries are not static, they thrive under active maintenance and conscious engagement. Boundaries also require internal permission. Many people struggle with setting limits because of perceived obligation, guilt, or fear of judgment. Accepting that energy is a resource that must be protected is not arrogance, it is realism. Giving oneself permission to uphold boundaries without apology fosters resilience and sustained capability. The internal dialogue shifts from fear of inconvenience to recognition of strategic necessity, creating alignment between intention and action. The payoff of energy boundaries manifests in subtle but profound ways. Tasks take less effort, creativity flows more readily, and focus sharpens. Relationships improve because interactions are grounded in presence rather than fatigue. Stress diminishes as energy is no longer scattered across trivial or draining demands. These improvements accumulate, reinforcing a sense of control and empowerment. The disciplined application of boundaries transforms not only what is accomplished, but the quality of experience in every moment. Start by implementing a single high-impact boundary today. Choose one area where energy leaks are obvious. Define a clear limit and commit to enforcing it consistently for at least 1 week. Observe the results. Notice the change in focus, mood, and output. Incrementally add additional boundaries over time. Consistency compounds results faster than sporadic or overly ambitious efforts. Boundaries, like muscles, strengthen with repeated, intentional use. Ultimately, protecting energy through boundaries is not a one-time act. It is a lifestyle choice. It is the decision to value presence, focus, and sustainability over constant reaction and depletion. Energy management becomes the invisible infrastructure supporting every goal, habit, and achievement. When boundaries are applied with clarity and consistency, the mind and body operate in alignment, resilience increases, and the capacity for meaningful action expands. Success in every dimension becomes the natural result of careful stewardship over this most essential resource. Number 3. Build habits that create momentum. Momentum is the invisible force that transforms effort into results. It does not happen by accident. Every achievement, every streak of progress, is built on repeated actions performed consistently over time. Momentum is created when small habits compound, when daily choices align with long-term goals, and when inertia begins to work in favor of growth rather than against it. Building habits that create momentum requires clarity, discipline, and a deep understanding of how behavior shapes outcomes. It is not about grand gestures or sudden transformation. It is about small, intentional steps that, when stacked, produce unstoppable forward motion. The first principle of habit-driven momentum is starting small. Efforts that are too ambitious often collapse under their own weight. Instead, focus on actions so simple that failure is almost impossible. A single paragraph written every morning, 10 push-ups after breakfast, or a 2-minute meditation before checking messages can be the spark that lights a much larger fire. Small wins trigger motivation, creating an upward spiral. Action fuels confidence. Confidence fuels more action, and soon the behavior expands naturally. Momentum is easier to sustain when the initial commitment is realistic and achievable. Consistency is the engine of momentum. Success is less about intensity and more about frequency. Completing a minor task daily is more powerful than performing a major task once in a while. The mind and body learn patterns through repetition, and these patterns become automatic over time. This automaticity reduces the friction of decision-making and conserves energy, allowing focus to be directed toward more complex challenges. Marking progress visibly, checking boxes, tracking streaks, or logging time spent reinforces consistency and converts abstract effort into measurable proof of movement. Anchor habits to existing routines to increase adherence. New behaviors are easier to maintain when they piggyback on established actions. For example, if morning coffee is non-negotiable, add a 5-minute journaling practice immediately after. Associating new habits with existing cues strengthens neural pathways, making the new behavior almost effortless over time. This method ensures that habits do not compete with willpower alone, but instead leverage routines already ingrained in daily life. Momentum accelerates when habits are linked to stable structures. Progress is accelerated when habits are designed to compound. Avoid one-off actions that produce temporary effects. Focus instead on behaviors that trigger further positive outcomes. Reading 10 pages of a book may inspire new ideas for work. A 5-minute exercise session energizes the body for additional tasks. Compound habits amplify growth by creating a chain reaction. Each action feeds the next, producing more results than the sum of individual efforts. Over weeks and months, these chains establish a rhythm where movement toward goals becomes inevitable rather than forced. Tracking progress is essential for sustaining momentum. Use tangible markers to assess the impact of habits. Journals, apps, or simple checklists provide evidence of forward motion and reveal gaps that require attention. Without tracking, habits may continue unnoticed, and growth becomes invisible, undermining motivation. Measuring progress transforms abstract intentions into concrete feedback, allowing adjustments to increase efficiency and effectiveness. Momentum thrives when progress is observable and celebrated, even in small increments. Energy management is deeply tied to habit formation. Momentum cannot persist if effort depletes physical or mental resources. Align habits with natural energy cycles to maximize performance. Schedule demanding tasks during peak focus periods and reserve recovery-oriented behaviors for times of lower energy. Habits that respect natural rhythms maintain sustainability and prevent burnout. Momentum is a product of intelligent pacing. Forward motion continues longest when energy is preserved rather than squandered. Discipline reinforces momentum more than motivation. Motivation fluctuates, while habits rely on repetition regardless of how one feels. Designing environments that reduce friction makes adherence easier. Remove distractions, prepare resources in advance, and structure surroundings to encourage the desired behavior. The physical world should serve the habit, not obstruct it. Momentum is strengthened when the path of least resistance aligns with productive action, making consistency the default response rather than a constant struggle. Flexibility within structure enhances sustainability. Rigid habits that fail to accommodate life's variability often collapse. Build adaptive frameworks that allow minor deviations without losing overall progress. If a scheduled run is missed due to an unavoidable meeting, substitute a shorter session or a different form of movement rather than abandoning the habit entirely. Momentum grows when actions are maintained with resilience rather than perfection. The capacity to recover quickly reinforces the trajectory of growth. Pair habits with clear intention. Understanding why a behavior matters strengthens adherence and accelerates momentum. For example, exercising is not merely a routine. It fuels energy, focus, and health that enable performance in other areas. Writing is not simply a task. It develops clarity, communication, and creativity that cascade into professional and personal effectiveness. Intention transforms routine into strategic investment, allowing each habit to carry purpose beyond the immediate act. Accountability amplifies habit formation. Sharing commitments with a trusted peer, mentor, or group introduces an external reinforcement layer. Publicly committing to small actions increases the likelihood of completion because social expectation reinforces personal resolve. Feedback from others also helps fine-tune the habit, exposing blind spots or inefficiencies that may impede momentum. Momentum grows when support and accountability structures are integrated into the process, converting isolated actions into a network of reinforcement. Gradually escalate effort to maintain challenge. Habits that remain static can plateau, slowing progress. Introduce incremental increases in intensity, duration, or complexity to prevent stagnation. Add 1 additional minute to a meditation session, 10 more pages to daily reading, or a slight weight increase in exercise. Gradual progression preserves momentum by keeping actions engaging and challenging without overwhelming capacity. Sustained growth relies on both stability and strategic advancement. Celebrate micro-successes consistently. Recognition of small wins provides reinforcement and maintains morale. Momentum is not built solely on dramatic achievements, but on the accumulation of incremental victories that demonstrate capability. Each completed habit, each checkmark on a streak, is evidence of control over action. Acknowledgement of progress strengthens identity and embeds confidence in the process, creating a self-reinforcing cycle where success motivates further action. Remove unnecessary friction by simplifying the process of habit execution. Complexity often undermines consistency. Prepare tools, remove barriers, and clarify the steps needed for completion. The fewer obstacles between intention and action, the more likely the habit persists. Momentum is amplified when behaviors are almost effortless to initiate, allowing the focus to shift from logistics to execution. Recognize triggers and signals that initiate momentum. Habits flourish when paired with environmental or emotional cues that naturally elicit behavior. Morning sunlight can signal journaling. A pre-lunch break can cue a walk. Closing the computer at the end of the workday can trigger reflection. Awareness of triggers ensures that habits occur reliably and integrate seamlessly into daily life. Momentum grows when initiation is automatic rather than forced. Maintain reflection practices to refine habits. Weekly reviews identify what is working, what requires adjustment, and which behaviors produce the greatest results. Reflection prevents stagnation, uncovers inefficiencies, and reinforces intentionality. By periodically assessing habit performance, progress becomes deliberate, measured, and optimized. Momentum is sustained when action is paired with insight, preventing unconscious drift and ensuring alignment with goals. Finally, understand that momentum feeds itself. Every small action completed, every streak maintained, every habit reinforced creates an internal narrative of capability and progress. The more frequently this cycle occurs, the less resistance exists to continue forward. Habits form the infrastructure that transforms fleeting effort into enduring achievement. When momentum is built through consistent, intelligent, and purposeful habits, success ceases to be a series of coincidences and becomes a predictable outcome of disciplined daily practice. Number 4. Prioritize action over endless planning. Action is the engine that transforms ideas into results. Planning has its value, but when overemphasized, it becomes a trap that delays progress and erodes momentum. Endless planning creates a false sense of preparation, while time slips away without tangible achievement. Prioritizing action over prolonged strategizing means embracing the reality that perfect information will never arrive, conditions will always change, and waiting for certainty guarantees stagnation. Real growth, influence, and success emerge only when energy is applied in deliberate, consistent action, not in the accumulation of plans that remain untested. The first step toward action-oriented living is to identify the smallest possible movement that leads toward a goal. A single step, however minor, breaks inertia. If the objective is writing a book, writing one paragraph counts. If the goal is fitness, performing a single set of exercises begins the process. This tiny action creates feedback, informs adjustments, and produces a sense of accomplishment that fuels continued effort. Progress starts with motion, and motion begins with manageable steps, not grandiose intentions. Decision-making must be streamlined. Action thrives when choices are clear, and boundaries for decision are well defined. Establish criteria for what constitutes acceptable action and what can be deferred. Avoid over-analyzing every possibility. Each minute spent weighing outcomes without moving forward is a minute lost in tangible progress. Commit to a framework where action is taken on a defined signal. When a task reaches a minimum threshold of readiness, proceed. Repeated practice of this principle trains decisiveness and reduces the paralysis that planning without execution creates. Set deadlines that are intentional and non-negotiable. Planning often extends indefinitely because timelines are flexible or vague. By assigning concrete deadlines to tasks, even small ones, the mind is forced into forward movement. Deadlines introduce urgency without panic, creating a rhythm that emphasizes doing over thinking. Accountability, whether to oneself or others, transforms abstract intentions into concrete actions that must occur within a defined time frame. Accept imperfection in early efforts. Action prioritization requires tolerance for mistakes, incomplete execution, or suboptimal outcomes. Waiting for perfect conditions or flawless plans guarantees inertia. Every attempt, even when flawed, provides information, experience, and insight that cannot be gained through contemplation alone. Mistakes are not failures, they are accelerants for learning and refinement. Momentum builds as each imperfect action informs the next, creating a cycle of iterative improvement that planning alone cannot replicate. Break large objectives into discrete tasks. Ambitious goals often intimidate and paralyze because they appear insurmountable. Decompose them into actionable components, each of which can be addressed immediately. The act of completing these smaller tasks creates visible progress, reinforcing confidence and sustaining motivation. Micro-actions compound, turning what once seemed impossible into a series of manageable achievements. Prioritizing action requires translating abstract ambition into a sequence of implementable steps. Implement the principle of immediate engagement. When an idea or opportunity arises, assess whether it can be acted upon within a minimal time window. If so, act immediately. Avoid the trap of logging it for later planning sessions. The habit of immediate engagement reduces procrastination, generates momentum, and transforms latent potential into observable outcomes. Even partial completion contributes to forward motion, producing insights that refine subsequent steps. Use structured experimentation to guide action. When options or strategies are unclear, test them in small, controlled ways rather than theorizing endlessly. Experiments provide real-world feedback that is unavailable in thought alone. Document outcomes, adjust approaches, and expand successful strategies. This method converts action into data-driven refinement, ensuring progress is continuous and grounded in practical results rather than speculative analysis. Establish a ritual of prioritization each day. Identify the top 3 actions that will create the most impact and focus on executing them first. Resist the temptation to refine strategies endlessly. By concentrating energy on high-leverage actions, the difference between activity and accomplishment becomes clear. Execution reinforces clarity, while over-planning obscures it. Daily prioritization ensures that action drives results rather than plans accumulating dust. Leverage constraints as catalysts for action. Constraints in time, resources, or context often force decision and movement. Instead of viewing limits as barriers, treat them as tools for focus. Narrow parameters compel innovation, efficiency, and immediacy. When conditions are constrained, action becomes unavoidable. Using boundaries to create urgency is far more productive than seeking an impossible open-ended scenario in which to operate. Eliminate analysis paralysis by using the 2-minute rule. If a task or component can be completed in 2 minutes or less, do it immediately. Small, quick actions accumulate into substantial progress over time. Immediate execution prevents minor tasks from piling up and creating a psychological burden that inhibits larger actions. This simple habit reinforces the principle that movement takes precedence over indefinite planning. Develop accountability structures. Share intentions with a trusted colleague, mentor, or friend who can provide oversight and prompt action. The presence of external expectation reduces the likelihood of delaying activity. Social accountability converts abstract intentions into tangible obligations, ensuring that action occurs even when internal motivation wanes. Momentum builds more readily when external and internal pressures align toward execution. Reflect after action, not before. Post-action analysis reveals what worked, what didn't, and what to adjust next. Reflection without prior action is speculation. Reflection after implementation produces insight. Use brief, structured assessments to iterate on processes, adjust approaches, and plan subsequent actions. This practice creates a learning loop in which action fuels refinement, and refinement fuels more effective action, perpetuating forward movement. Incorporate tangible markers of progress to reinforce motivation. Visual representations of completed actions, such as checklists, dashboards, or streak trackers, make accomplishment visible. Seeing results encourages continued effort and reminds the mind that action yields outcomes. Planning may provide an illusion of movement, but visible completion validates real movement and sustains drive. Reinforcement through measurable progress ensures that action remains prioritized. Anchor decision-making to values and principles rather than theoretical projections. When uncertainty exists, act according to established standards rather than attempting to foresee every variable. Values provide a compass that guides behavior, ensuring actions are aligned with long-term objectives, even when full information is unavailable. Acting from a principle-based framework reduces hesitation and allows for consistent, deliberate movement toward meaningful goals. Embrace discomfort as part of execution. Action often involves facing risk, ambiguity, or initial resistance. Avoidance in the name of preparation delays learning and growth. Recognize discomfort as an indicator of meaningful progress rather than a signal to pause. Each step taken in the presence of unease strengthens resilience, reinforces confidence, and amplifies capacity for future action. Prioritizing action requires courage to initiate, regardless of temporary discomfort. Develop routines that minimize friction in action. Prearrange tools, resources, and environments to streamline execution. Reduce unnecessary steps that delay start times or add complexity. The easier it is to begin, the more likely consistent action will occur. Momentum grows when starting tasks is simple and nearly automatic, leaving energy available for performance rather than initiation. Finally, recognize that action generates clarity. Plans are maps, but movement reveals terrain. Each executed step uncovers obstacles, opportunities, and realities that cannot be predicted from theory alone. The process of acting refines judgment, improves foresight, and informs subsequent planning. Prioritizing action over endless preparation ensures that momentum accumulates, insights compound, and objectives advance consistently. Success is a product of applied effort, continuous execution, and the courage to move forward despite uncertainty. Number 5. Embrace responsibility for every outcome. Taking full responsibility for every outcome is the cornerstone of personal growth and lasting achievement. It is the recognition that regardless of circumstances, every result, whether success or failure, has a component under your control. True empowerment begins when excuses and blame are removed from the equation. Responsibility is not about self-punishment or rigid perfectionism. It is about acknowledging influence, embracing accountability, and using every outcome as a tool for learning and improvement. The act of fully owning results transforms mindset, behavior, and the trajectory of life in ways that theory alone cannot achieve. Responsibility begins with clarity about one's role in each situation. Most people instinctively assign blame to external factors, but there is always a portion of outcome directly linked to action, preparation, and attitude. Identifying this portion requires honesty and introspection. When a project underperforms, instead of attributing failure solely to external circumstances, ask, what decisions, choices, or actions contributed to this result? This process shifts focus from helplessness to empowerment, revealing areas where influence can be exercised and improvement is possible. Decision-making must be guided by ownership. Every choice, no matter how small, carries consequences. Approaching decisions with the mindset that you will be accountable for the results heightens focus and intentionality. Evaluate options based on principles and likely impact rather than convenience or temporary relief. This mindset naturally fosters discipline, reduces impulsivity, and aligns actions with long-term objectives. Ownership transforms ordinary choices into deliberate steps toward desired outcomes. Language shapes responsibility. Avoid phrases that deflect accountability, such as, "I couldn't because," or "they made me." Reframe statements to acknowledge role and influence. "I did not manage this effectively," or "I chose a course that led here." This linguistic shift reinforces the habit of personal ownership. Speaking with responsibility fosters self-respect and signals to others that integrity governs action, building credibility and trust in professional and personal arenas. Embracing responsibility also means confronting mistakes without delay. When errors occur, acknowledging them immediately prevents compounding effects and sets the stage for corrective action. Concealing, rationalizing, or postponing acknowledgement delays learning and perpetuates errors. A disciplined response to mistakes involves clear recognition, analysis of contributing factors, and immediate steps to correct or mitigate consequences. This approach not only resolves issues efficiently, but strengthens confidence in the ability to manage challenges proactively. Responsibility involves a commitment to outcomes, not merely effort. Effort alone does not define accountability. Results do. It is not sufficient to try hard if the approach is ineffective or misaligned. Focus must be placed on strategies and actions that produce tangible results. Regularly assess whether current methods are advancing goals. If they are not, take responsibility for adjusting tactics rather than clinging to ineffective routines. This active stewardship of outcomes ensures that work is meaningful and effective, rather than merely performative. Learning from every result is essential. Each outcome, positive or negative, provides information that can inform future action. A successful result indicates methods worth repeating or refining, while an undesirable outcome highlights gaps in planning, execution, or decision-making. Documenting lessons and applying them systematically converts experience into a feedback loop that accelerates growth. Ownership amplifies the value of each experience by making reflection actionable rather than passive observation. Boundaries between influence and uncontrollable factors must be understood, but without creating excuses. External circumstances exist, yet responsibility centers on the elements within reach. Identify what can be controlled: choices, preparation, attitude, and effort, and act decisively in those areas. Acknowledging limitations while concentrating on controllable variables prevents paralysis and fosters strategic action. Outcomes improve as focus is directed where it can generate tangible impact, rather than dissipating on uncontrollable forces. Responsibility strengthens resilience. When setbacks occur, those who embrace accountability are equipped to respond effectively. They analyze factors within their control, adjust strategies, and persist. Blame deflectors, in contrast, often stagnate, waiting for conditions or others to change. Resilience grows when ownership is internalized, because it anchors the individual in agency rather than circumstance. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to demonstrate capability and reinforce the principle that results are a reflection of conscious action. Ownership requires proactive monitoring of performance. Tracking progress through regular assessments ensures that accountability remains active rather than theoretical. Set measurable indicators for key outcomes and evaluate them consistently. Early identification of deviations enables timely adjustments, preventing minor issues from escalating into failures. Monitoring creates a feedback-rich environment in which responsibility is continuously exercised rather than postponed until outcomes are fully revealed. Communication is an extension of responsibility. Transparent and clear interactions reinforce accountability, especially in collaborative environments. Communicate intentions, progress, and obstacles openly, ensuring that expectations are aligned with capacity and commitment. Taking responsibility also means acknowledging when external support or collaboration is needed to achieve outcomes. Clear communication amplifies effectiveness and prevents misunderstandings that could compromise results. Proactive preparation is part of responsible action. Outcomes improve when effort is guided by foresight and planning, but planning alone is insufficient. Preparation is a tool to enable effective action, not a substitute for it. Anticipate potential challenges, acquire necessary resources, and build skills in advance. These steps strengthen the likelihood of achieving desired results and reflect a commitment to accountability for what is to come. Responsibility is embedded in readiness as much as it is in response. Responsibility extends to influence on others. Leadership and mentorship involve taking ownership for the guidance, support, and environment provided to peers or teams. Outcomes are not solely individual, they include the effects of decisions on collective performance. Responsible leadership ensures that choices made consider their impact on others, creating a culture of accountability and reliability. Ownership of influence enhances both personal and organizational success. Avoid reactive excuses when outcomes diverge from expectations. Emotional reactions, defensiveness, or rationalizations dilute accountability and impede learning. Instead, adopt a methodical response. Analyze factors, acknowledge personal contribution, and identify corrective measures. This disciplined approach converts what could be discouraging experiences into structured opportunities for growth. Responsibility is strengthened when emotion is managed, and judgment is applied consistently. Ownership demands courage. Accepting responsibility for poor results, unanticipated consequences, or mistakes requires a willingness to face discomfort. The avoidance of accountability is easier, but ultimately undermines progress. Courageous acceptance of outcomes empowers action, builds credibility, and establishes a foundation for trust. Facing reality fully, rather than deflecting it, cultivates strength of character and practical wisdom. Responsibility reinforces self-efficacy. Each time an individual accepts accountability and takes corrective action, confidence in one's ability to influence outcomes grows. Repeated experiences of managing results, solving problems, and adapting strategies solidify the belief that action matters. This growing self-efficacy feeds further ownership, creating a virtuous cycle in which deliberate effort reliably shapes the course of life. Documenting actions and outcomes enhances responsibility. Maintaining a log of decisions, actions, and results allows for precise review, assessment, and improvement. This record prevents rationalization, highlights patterns, and makes the link between behavior and consequence visible. The habit of documentation institutionalizes accountability and ensures that lessons from experience are retained and applied systematically. Finally, embracing responsibility transforms perception of challenges. Obstacles shift from being external punishments to opportunities for skill, insight, and growth. Outcomes, whether favorable or unfavorable, become reflections of deliberate interaction with reality rather than random chance. Each decision and action carries weight, but also potential. Accepting this truth liberates action, strengthens discipline, and generates consistent advancement. Responsibility is not a burden. It is the path to mastery, influence, and sustainable achievement. Owning every outcome ensures that life's trajectory is governed by choice and integrity, producing results that are deliberate, meaningful, and aligned with purpose. Number 6. Focus mindset on long-term goals. Long-term goals are the compass that guides every meaningful decision, action, and habit. Without them, effort becomes scattered, energy dissipates, and momentum falters. Focusing the mind on long-term objectives does not mean neglecting the present. It means aligning daily behavior with a vision that stretches beyond immediate gratification. This alignment requires clarity, patience, discipline, and the ability to filter out distractions that compete with what truly matters. The mind, when trained to prioritize enduring outcomes, operates with precision, making choices that accumulate advantage over time. Begin by clearly defining what long-term success looks like. Specificity transforms abstract ambition into actionable clarity. Describe the desired outcome in precise terms, not just financial stability, but a measurable milestone such as a sustainable income that covers all essential expenses and allows for quarterly investment growth. Instead of vague objectives like be healthier, define concrete results such as complete a 30-minute workout 5 days a week and maintain a balanced diet with daily servings of fruits and vegetables. This level of clarity provides the mind with a tangible target, making each daily decision a step toward a defined endpoint. Visualize goals consistently. The brain responds to vivid mental images, translating them into motivation and behavior. Spend several minutes each day imagining not only the achievement of the goal, but the specific actions required to reach it. Visualize obstacles as well as solutions, preparing the mind to respond effectively when challenges arise. Visualization does not replace action, but it primes focus, strengthens resolve, and embeds the long-term target into consciousness, making it an ever-present guide in decision-making. Prioritize actions based on long-term impact. Not every task contributes equally to the ultimate goal. Develop a hierarchy of activities that maximizes alignment with long-term objectives. For example, learning a skill that multiplies future opportunities should outweigh low-value tasks that consume time without contributing to growth. Use regular reflection to identify which activities generate cumulative advantage and which erode momentum. Consistent evaluation ensures that effort is strategically invested rather than dissipated in transient distractions. Develop mental endurance to resist immediate temptations that undermine long-term progress. The human mind naturally gravitates toward what is easy, pleasurable, or urgent, but these impulses often conflict with enduring objectives. Strengthen self-discipline through incremental challenges, such as delaying a small indulgence or completing a minor but difficult task first. Each act of resistance reinforces the neural pathways associated with patience, persistence, and focus, creating the capacity to prioritize meaningful outcomes over short-term impulses. Break long-term goals into sequential, measurable milestones. Large objectives can feel overwhelming if considered as a whole. Milestones transform distant ambitions into manageable steps, providing regular feedback and sustaining motivation. Each milestone reached is evidence of progress and a validation of effort. Define specific criteria for success at each stage and celebrate completion as a confirmation of alignment with the ultimate goal. Structured progression prevents discouragement and reinforces the connection between action and long-term achievement. Integrate daily routines that reflect priorities. The behaviors embedded in morning rituals, work patterns, and evening reflections can be engineered to reinforce long-term goals. For instance, dedicating the first hour of the day to high-value work ensures consistent advancement, while scheduling study, exercise, or skill-building sessions preserves energy for the most impactful tasks. Routine acts as scaffolding for long-term vision, converting intention into repeatable, reliable execution. Maintain awareness of the trade-offs inherent in every choice. Every decision carries opportunity costs. Training the mind to evaluate options through the lens of long-term benefit rather than immediate satisfaction ensures that scarce resources, time, energy, and attention are allocated to actions that compound over time. Consider consequences several steps ahead. Will this activity, conversation, or habit strengthen the foundation for tomorrow or merely gratify today? Long-term focus sharpens discernment and aligns daily actions with strategic purpose. Leverage patience as an active practice. Enduring objectives rarely yield results instantly. Cultivate the ability to persist through slow, incremental progress, trusting that consistent effort accumulates into transformative outcomes. Regularly remind yourself of past achievements that required sustained dedication, reinforcing the understanding that meaningful change is the product of time and persistent effort. Patience is not passive, it is deliberate perseverance guided by a clear vision of the ultimate target. Guard attention against distractions that erode focus. Long-term goals require sustained cognitive and emotional investment. Identify and minimize sources of noise, whether digital, social, or environmental. Establish structured blocks for high-priority activities, enforce periods of deep work, and protect uninterrupted reflection time. Conscious management of attention ensures that effort is not diffused across inconsequential tasks, preserving clarity and energy for actions that directly advance the long-term vision. Anchor decisions in principles rather than convenience. Values act as a compass when navigating uncertainty, align choices with fundamental beliefs and long-term objectives. Even when the immediate path is difficult, principle-driven decisions reduce the likelihood of reactive behavior and provide consistency across changing circumstances. Every choice evaluated against enduring standards reinforces identity, strengthens resolve, and produces cumulative effects that support sustained progress. Adopt a mindset of continuous refinement. Long-term objectives are achieved through iteration, adaptation, and learning. Regularly assess outcomes, identify inefficiencies, and adjust strategies accordingly. A flexible, analytical approach prevents stagnation, ensures responsiveness to new information, and maintains alignment with the overarching vision. Momentum toward long-term goals thrives when actions are evaluated and refined systematically rather than repeated blindly. Balance immediate needs with strategic priorities. Life requires managing the present while investing in the future. Allocate energy to urgent tasks without compromising high-value long-term initiatives. Identify tasks that can be delegated or postponed to preserve focus on activities with enduring impact. This balance prevents reactive living, ensuring that daily energy expenditure contributes meaningfully to long-term success while maintaining necessary responsiveness to immediate demands. Measure progress in ways that reinforce vision. Quantitative metrics such as completed milestones, skills acquired, or financial benchmarks provide tangible evidence of advancement. Qualitative assessment, reflection on personal growth, increased competence, or expanded capacity adds depth and motivation. Tracking progress consolidates focus, reinforces purpose, and illuminates the trajectory toward long-term objectives. Momentum is reinforced when effort produces visible, meaningful outcomes over time. Cultivate resilience for inevitable setbacks. Challenges and failures are unavoidable, but long-term focus allows perspective to interpret them as temporary obstacles rather than permanent derailments. Analyze what went wrong, extract lessons, and resume action with adjustments. The ability to recover swiftly preserves momentum and ensures continuous alignment with the long-term target. Resilience becomes the bridge between ambition and achievement, converting adversity into strategic advantage. Surround yourself with reinforcing influences. Relationships, environments, and informational inputs shape mindset and priorities. Engage with individuals who support ambition, challenge complacency, and provide constructive feedback. Curate environments that reduce temptation and distraction while promoting focus and productivity. Input shapes mental landscape. Deliberate selection reinforces a long-term orientation, ensuring that attention and energy are consistently directed toward meaningful outcomes. Finally, integrate reflection as a daily practice. Morning or evening reviews of progress, obstacles, and next steps maintain clarity of direction. Reflection reinforces commitment, identifies gaps in alignment, and enhances decision-making. By consistently examining choices in the context of the long-term vision, the mind becomes trained to filter immediate impulses through strategic lenses. Focused attention on long-term goals transforms ordinary days into purposeful progression, ensuring that each action contributes meaningfully to the trajectory of life. The disciplined practice of long-term focus creates a mindset that is resilient, deliberate, and consistently oriented toward growth, turning ambition into achievement and potential into reality. Number 7. Develop resilience through consistent challenges. Resilience is not an innate trait reserved for a select few. It is a skill cultivated through intentional exposure to consistent challenges. Life rarely follows a smooth path, and those who achieve lasting success do so not because they avoid difficulties, but because they have trained themselves to withstand them. Resilience is the ability to recover, adapt, and continue forward when circumstances are difficult or unpredictable. Developing this capacity requires deliberate practice, a mindset attuned to growth, and an understanding that discomfort and obstacles are not barriers, but opportunities for strengthening character and skill. The foundation of resilience begins with embracing challenges rather than avoiding them. Growth cannot occur in a comfort zone because the comfort zone provides neither feedback nor opportunity for improvement. Seek tasks that push limits and require persistence, even when immediate success is uncertain. Small, consistent exposures to difficulty build tolerance and capability. Each challenge conquered reinforces confidence, demonstrates capability, and establishes a psychological framework where obstacles are anticipated and manageable. Consistency is essential when building resilience. Facing a challenge once may produce insight, but it is the repeated confrontation with difficulty that embeds endurance and adaptability. Establish routines that include deliberate stresses appropriate to personal growth goals. For instance, daily exercise beyond perceived limits, tackling demanding intellectual tasks, or engaging in complex problem-solving develops the ability to tolerate pressure without breaking. Over time, the nervous system, thought patterns, and emotional responses recalibrate, making higher levels of stress easier to navigate. Mindset shapes how challenges are interpreted. Viewing obstacles as threats undermines resilience, while perceiving them as opportunities strengthens it. Train the mind to frame adversity as a source of learning and skill development. Each setback carries information that, when analyzed objectively, informs better strategies and decisions. This cognitive reframing converts fear and frustration into curiosity and motivation, making challenges a tool for advancement rather than a source of discouragement. Controlled exposure to discomfort accelerates growth. Deliberately placing oneself in challenging situations teaches adaptation, problem-solving, and emotional regulation. This might involve public speaking, physical endurance tasks, or complex projects that test competence. Each encounter produces stress, but when faced with intention and reflection, stress becomes a mechanism for development rather than destruction. Resilience is strengthened by systematic, progressive exposure rather than sudden, overwhelming crises. Reflection after challenges is crucial. It is not enough to merely endure difficulty. Analyzing the experience ensures that lessons are extracted and future responses are improved. Consider what strategies worked, what failed, and what emotional reactions emerged. Document these insights to track progress over time. Reflection transforms transient struggle into structured knowledge, creating a blueprint for navigating future obstacles with increasing competence and calm. Developing resilience requires a balance between pushing limits and allowing recovery. Overexposure to difficulty without adequate rest or replenishment can erode strength rather than build it. Schedule periods of reflection, relaxation, and restoration to integrate lessons, repair energy, and consolidate progress. Resilience is sustained through cycles of challenge and recovery, where the body and mind assimilate experiences without being overwhelmed. Accountability enhances resilience. Sharing commitments or challenges with a mentor, peer, or community creates a supportive framework that encourages persistence. External accountability reinforces internal discipline, providing motivation when personal resolve wavers. Additionally, observing others navigate challenges can provide models of effective strategies and emotional control, accelerating the development of one's own capacity to withstand adversity. Resilience is reinforced through preparation. Anticipating obstacles and equipping oneself with skills, resources, and contingency plans strengthens confidence when difficulties arise. Preparation does not eliminate challenges, but it reduces panic, uncertainty, and impulsive reactions. A proactive approach builds the mental fortitude to confront adversity with clarity, ensuring that challenges are managed constructively rather than reactively. Stress management techniques are vital. Learning to regulate physiological and emotional responses to difficulty prevents burnout and enhances endurance. Techniques such as controlled breathing, mindfulness, and focused attention on actionable steps maintain composure in high-pressure situations. Emotional control under duress ensures that decisions remain rational, problem-solving remains effective, and energy is not wasted on reactive negativity. Developing resilience requires accepting responsibility for reactions. External circumstances will always fluctuate, but emotional and behavioral responses are within control. Viewing setbacks as opportunities to practice self-regulation and adaptability reinforces agency. Ownership of reactions transforms adversity into a laboratory for strengthening character rather than a battlefield in which one is victimized by circumstance. Incremental challenges build confidence and capability simultaneously. Avoid waiting for extreme crises to test endurance. Daily exercises of persistence, patience, and problem-solving create cumulative psychological strength. Completing progressively harder tasks generates a sense of mastery and expands tolerance for future stresses. Momentum in resilience is the product of small, consistent tests rather than rare, dramatic confrontations with adversity. Social connections influence resilience. Strong, supportive relationships provide resources for emotional reinforcement, advice, and perspective during challenging times. Seeking guidance or sharing burdens does not diminish personal strength. It enhances adaptability and enables sustained effort. Surrounding oneself with resilient individuals encourages modeling of effective coping strategies, reinforcing the habit of perseverance. Maintaining focus on long-term benefits supports resilience during short-term discomfort. Immediate challenges often feel overwhelming if disconnected from their purpose. Clarifying how current struggles contribute to broader objectives reinforces persistence. Each difficulty becomes a building block rather than a setback. Purpose-oriented focus strengthens resolve and transforms temporary strain into meaningful progress. Adaptability is a core component. Resilient individuals do not insist on rigid plans, but adjust strategies when circumstances change. Flexibility allows for the navigation of unexpected obstacles without succumbing to frustration or stagnation. Learning to pivot efficiently and thoughtfully converts potential derailments into manageable course corrections, reinforcing the ability to continue forward despite adversity. Cultivating optimism strengthens endurance. Maintaining a realistic but hopeful outlook ensures that challenges are met with effort rather than surrender. Optimism is not naive positivity. It is the conscious expectation that effort, learning, and persistence can influence outcomes. This belief fuels the energy and determination required to sustain action under pressure. Routine assessment of resilience progress is essential. Periodically evaluate how effectively challenges are being navigated, which strategies are most effective, and where emotional responses could be improved. Continuous refinement ensures that resilience develops intentionally rather than haphazardly, creating a disciplined and reliable capacity to endure and adapt. Finally, recognize that consistent exposure to challenges produces compounding strength. Each difficulty faced and navigated leaves the mind and body better equipped for the next. Resilience is the accumulation of small victories over discomfort, the repeated exercise of patience, persistence, and adaptability. Developing it transforms not only the ability to withstand future stresses, but also the confidence to pursue ambitious goals without fear of obstacles. Through deliberate engagement with consistent challenges, resilience becomes ingrained, turning adversity into a teacher and struggle into a pathway to growth, mastery, and enduring success. Number 8. Lead by example in everything. Leadership is not defined by position, title, or authority. True leadership is demonstrated through action, consistency, and integrity. Leading by example is the principle that influence comes first from what you do rather than what you say. People observe behavior far more than instructions, and the patterns you establish set the standard for those around you. Consistently demonstrating commitment, discipline, and ethical behavior establishes credibility and inspires others to follow naturally. Leadership by example is an ongoing practice that requires intentionality, self-awareness, and accountability in every area of life. The first step in leading by example is aligning actions with values. Consistency between stated beliefs and actual behavior fosters trust and reliability. If integrity, punctuality, or diligence is promoted as important, these qualities must be consistently exhibited. Any gap between principle and action diminishes influence and erodes respect. Demonstrating alignment between values and behavior shows that standards are not arbitrary rules, but lived realities, reinforcing credibility in personal, professional, and social environments. Responsibility for commitments strengthens leadership impact. Following through on promises, obligations, and tasks establishes reliability. Others measure leadership by the degree to which a person consistently meets expectations. When responsibilities are neglected, even minor ones, trust erodes and influence diminishes. Leading by example requires meticulous attention to commitments, ensuring that follow-through is absolute. This creates a foundation of dependability that motivates others to adopt similar standards of accountability. Excellence in daily actions sets the tone for others. Consistently striving to perform at a high level signals seriousness, discipline, and dedication. Attention to detail, thoroughness in work, and persistence in effort communicate that standards matter and that shortcuts are not acceptable. By maintaining high personal standards, others are naturally inspired to elevate their own performance. Leadership is a visible benchmark, and daily demonstration of excellence encourages emulation without coercion. Integrity in decision-making is essential. Leaders who make ethical choices, even when inconvenient, set a moral framework for those around them. Decisions are scrutinized, consciously or unconsciously, and each choice reflects the principles that guide behavior. By consistently prioritizing ethics and fairness over expediency or personal gain, influence is reinforced and trust is deepened. Leading by example demonstrates that leadership is about responsibility and principle rather than personal advantage. Consistency reinforces influence. Sporadic demonstration of leadership qualities creates confusion and diminishes authority. The behaviors, attitudes, and work habits that are valued must be expressed reliably over time. This consistency creates predictability, which fosters security and respect among observers. Consistency is not about rigidity, but about showing that commitment to values and standards is unwavering, regardless of circumstances. Predictable adherence to principles strengthens credibility and magnifies impact. Accountability extends beyond personal outcomes to interactions with others, demonstrating respect, fairness, and consideration in all dealings communicates a model for behavior within a group or team. Responding constructively to mistakes, offering assistance where possible, and maintaining composure under pressure signals to others how to handle challenges effectively. Leadership is experienced through observation of how individuals manage both success and adversity, and modeling constructive behavior cultivates a culture of accountability and mutual support. Active engagement in the same work required of others enhances leadership authenticity. Leaders who participate fully rather than merely directing gain insight, respect, and authority. Sharing the workload, taking part in challenging tasks, and being visible in effort demonstrates solidarity and commitment. Observers recognize shared experience as evidence that leadership is not detached or symbolic, but rooted in participation and contribution. Authentic leadership, by example, motivates teams to mirror effort and dedication. Adaptability and composure under pressure serve as models for behavior in difficult situations. Leaders who remain calm, focused, and solution-oriented during crises demonstrate resilience and strategic thinking. Others learn from the approach modeled, responding thoughtfully rather than reacting emotionally, seeking solutions rather than assigning blame, and maintaining focus on critical objectives. Leading by example in challenging moments builds confidence in leadership and teaches practical approaches to adversity. Communication is an integral part of leading by example. Clear, respectful, and purposeful interaction models the standards expected in discourse. Avoiding gossip, reactive arguments, or careless language shows that communication itself is a skill to be cultivated. Listening actively, providing feedback constructively, and conveying information with integrity demonstrate professionalism and consideration. Leadership is reinforced through verbal and non-verbal communication that embodies the values of transparency, respect, and clarity. Continuous personal growth enhances influence. Demonstrating a commitment to learning, skill development, and self-improvement sets an example that growth is ongoing, regardless of position or experience. Reading, training, seeking feedback, and embracing challenges illustrate that leadership requires effort, humility, and persistence. Observers internalize the value of self-improvement when it is modeled consistently, understanding that leadership is a process of continuous refinement rather than a static achievement. Leading by example involves visible demonstration of discipline in habits and routines. Time management, punctuality, prioritization, and consistency in work ethic signal the importance of structured effort. Observing these habits in action communicates to others the practical steps necessary to achieve excellence and maintain reliability. Habits are powerful silent teachers, showing that discipline is not theoretical but embedded in everyday life. Leadership through habit demonstrates that success is created through intentional daily choices. Transparency in acknowledging mistakes strengthens influence. Leaders who admit errors promptly, take corrective action, and communicate learning openly set a model for accountability. Concealing mistakes or deflecting blame undermines credibility, while visible ownership reinforces trust and teaches others that accountability is a strength, not a weakness. Leading by example in this manner cultivates a culture of honesty, learning, and collective improvement. Encouragement and support are part of leadership by example. Demonstrating empathy, offering guidance, and celebrating others' achievements models a balanced approach to influence that is not authoritarian, but supportive. Observers learn to value contribution, collaboration, and recognition, seeing that effective leadership balances personal standards with attention to the growth of those around them. Modeling supportive behavior reinforces a positive environment where effort is both expected and appreciated. Focus on long-term vision in daily actions is critical. Leaders who consistently act with awareness of strategic objectives provide a blueprint for prioritization. Observing how actions are connected to broader goals teaches others the importance of intentionality, planning, and patience. Leadership by example shows that effort is most meaningful when it aligns with purpose, and that decisions should reflect not only immediate convenience but long-term impact. Decision integrity is reinforced through accountability for outcomes. Leaders who accept responsibility for results, whether favorable or challenging, model ownership and maturity. Actions are scrutinized, and consistent ownership communicates that leadership entails both authority and responsibility. This demonstration cultivates respect, encourages followers to embrace responsibility, and establishes a culture where results are pursued deliberately rather than passively. Finally, leading by example is a continuous, holistic practice. Every action, choice, and behavior communicates standards, values, and expectations. Consistency, integrity, engagement, and transparency create an invisible framework that others naturally observe and emulate. Leadership is not a title or position. It is lived daily through deliberate action. By consistently embodying the principles you seek to instill, influence is earned, trust is strengthened, and a culture of excellence and accountability emerges. Leading by example transforms personal discipline into collective inspiration, ensuring that success and integrity propagate naturally through observation, modeling, and consistent practice. Number 9. Reflect daily to adjust strategies. Reflection is a powerful tool for growth, yet it is often overlooked in the rush of daily life. Pausing to evaluate what has been done, what has worked, and what is not is essential for refining strategies and ensuring continued progress. Daily reflection transforms experience into insight, turning ordinary actions into learning opportunities. Without this practice, effort can become repetitive and ineffective, and momentum may stall. Reflection provides clarity, identifies gaps, and informs deliberate adjustments, ensuring that each day contributes meaningfully toward long-term goals. The first element of effective reflection is honesty. Observing your own actions without self-deception or rationalization allows for a truthful understanding of what occurred. A critical but fair assessment identifies both strengths and weaknesses, revealing where strategies succeeded and where they faltered. Honesty is not harsh self-judgment, but a clear-eyed recognition of reality. By accepting facts without distortion, patterns emerge that would otherwise remain hidden, giving actionable insight into performance. Reflection requires structured observation. Simply thinking about the day is often insufficient. Organizing thoughts around specific questions produces actionable outcomes. Consider what went well today, what challenges arose, what could have been done differently, which habits supported progress, and which hindered it. Structuring reflection in this manner allows the mind to focus on cause and effect relationships, creating a foundation for intelligent adjustments rather than vague intentions to do better next time. Recording reflections amplifies their value. Writing down observations, decisions, and outcomes consolidates learning and provides a reference for future evaluation. A journal or digital log captures nuances that may be forgotten, creating a historical map of progress and setbacks. Reviewing previous entries allows recognition of patterns, cycles, and repeated challenges, transforming experience into a strategic surrix. Documentation converts ephemeral thought into tangible knowledge that can inform future planning. Reflection fosters mindfulness in action. By examining each day's events and choices, awareness of behavior, thought patterns, and emotional responses increases. This self-awareness enhances decision-making, allowing future actions to be intentional rather than reactive. When reflection is habitual, it becomes a lens through which all activity is filtered, reinforcing alignment with overarching goals. Mindful reflection ensures that energy is directed toward effective strategies rather than wasted on ineffective repetition. Identifying successes during reflection is as important as recognizing shortcomings. Celebrating victories, even small ones, reinforces productive behavior and builds confidence. Acknowledging what works helps prioritize strategies that produce tangible results. Recognizing progress prevents discouragement, provides motivation for continued effort, and highlights the mechanisms that should be reinforced. Success, when consciously observed, becomes a guide for future action rather than a passive event. Analyzing failures or missteps provides critical insight. Instead of assigning blame externally or internalizing them destructively, reflect on the contributing factors and decisions that led to undesired outcomes. Determine whether adjustments in approach, timing, or mindset could have produced better results. This analysis turns errors into data, creating opportunities for refinement and continuous improvement. Reflection ensures that challenges do not repeat without learning. Reflection strengthens adaptability. Life and circumstances are unpredictable, and strategies that worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. Daily evaluation allows for timely adjustments to methods, priorities, and focus areas. Flexibility in response is essential for sustained progress. By reflecting consistently, the mind becomes adept at detecting early signals that change is necessary, preventing stagnation and fostering continuous alignment with evolving goals. Emotional awareness is a crucial aspect of reflection. Consider how feelings influence decisions and performance throughout the day. Emotional responses can reveal unconscious biases, tendencies, or triggers that shape behavior. Recognizing these patterns provides opportunities for emotional regulation, improved judgment, and more consistent performance. Daily reflection allows emotional intelligence to grow alongside strategic insight, creating a holistic framework for improvement. Reflection encourages accountability. Reviewing daily actions and outcomes highlights areas where personal responsibility is essential. By systematically assessing choices and behaviors, the habit of ownership is reinforced. Accountability ensures that progress is self-driven rather than reliant on external validation or circumstances. When daily reflection is practiced consistently, it cultivates discipline, responsibility, and a mindset of continuous oversight of personal actions. Prioritization improves through reflection. Evaluating which tasks, habits, or strategies contributed most to objectives allows for more effective allocation of time and energy. Recognizing high-impact actions ensures that efforts are concentrated where they produce meaningful results, while low-value activities can be minimized or eliminated. This practice aligns resources with purpose, producing compound benefits over time. Daily reflection ensures priorities remain clear and decisions are guided by impact rather than habit or convenience. Reflection also enhances problem solving. By reviewing challenges faced and how they were approached, alternative solutions and creative approaches can be identified. Consider what could have been done differently and explore new techniques or perspectives. Each reflection session becomes a laboratory for experimentation, allowing strategies to be tested mentally before implementation. Continuous problem solving develops strategic flexibility and strengthens the ability to navigate complex situations. Integrating reflection with goal tracking amplifies results. Evaluate how daily actions contribute to long-term objectives, identifying both alignment and deviation. This practice reinforces the connection between immediate behavior and ultimate outcomes, ensuring that every step taken is purposeful. Awareness of this connection motivates consistency and effort, transforming routine actions into deliberate progression toward overarching goals. Reflection supports resilience. Understanding what caused stress, frustration, or setbacks, allows for the development of strategies to manage similar situations in the future. Identifying triggers, patterns, and effective coping mechanisms builds mental and emotional endurance. Each reflection session contributes to a stronger capacity to respond to adversity, converting past challenges into lessons that strengthen character and perseverance. Collaboration benefits from individual reflection. When working with others, insights gained through personal assessment can improve communication, delegation, and cooperation. Understanding personal strengths and limitations helps identify how to contribute effectively and where to seek support. Reflective practice enhances both individual performance and the quality of group outcomes, creating a feedback-rich environment conducive to collective success. Reflection enhances learning speed. By consciously evaluating each day, mistakes are recognized quickly, successes are internalized efficiently, and improvement occurs at an accelerated pace. Habits, strategies, and thought patterns are refined continuously rather than waiting for external feedback or crises to reveal shortcomings. Daily reflection transforms ordinary experience into structured, accelerated learning that compounds over time. Finally, reflection ensures intentionality. Life moves rapidly, and actions can easily become reactive or habitual. Daily evaluation of strategies, choices, and behaviors re-establishes purpose and direction. By consciously adjusting approaches based on observed outcomes, efficiency and effectiveness increase. Reflection transforms routine effort into deliberate progression, turning experience into actionable insight and fostering a trajectory of continuous growth, improvement, and meaningful achievement. Regular reflection is not an optional exercise. It is a discipline that converts daily actions into strategic advantage, ensuring that every decision and effort is optimized for progress. Number 10. Take ownership of personal decisions. Taking full ownership of personal decisions is one of the most powerful acts a person can commit to in life. Every choice you make, no matter how small, has consequences, and accepting complete responsibility for those consequences transforms the way you live, work, and grow. Ownership is not about blaming yourself for circumstances beyond control. It is about understanding that your reactions, interpretations, and actions are entirely within your influence. When every decision is fully owned, life becomes a series of deliberate steps rather than a sequence of accidental events. This mindset turns uncertainty into clarity and empowers consistent progress toward meaningful goals. The first step in taking ownership is cultivating awareness of choices. Life is full of decisions, from major career moves to the small daily habits that shape health, relationships, and productivity. Most people move through life reactively, following routines or succumbing to external pressures without conscious thought. Ownership begins with the recognition that each option, action, and inaction carries weight. By consciously acknowledging choices, you reclaim agency over outcomes rather than attributing results solely to luck, other people, or circumstance. Ownership requires honesty in evaluating past decisions. Reflecting on outcomes, both successes and failures, reveals patterns in judgment, behavior, and decision-making. It is not sufficient to claim credit when things go well while blaming external forces when they do not. Honest evaluation allows you to identify which decisions were effective, which were misguided, and what strategies need to change. This honest reflection is a cornerstone of mastery, enabling the refinement of judgment and the strengthening of decision-making capacity. Ownership transforms accountability from a concept into daily practice. When you take responsibility for your decisions, you stop deflecting blame and begin to actively shape results. This shift fosters resilience because challenges are approached as manageable problems rather than uncontrollable obstacles. By holding yourself accountable, you develop a mindset in which every outcome is a learning opportunity and every result informs the next course of action. This perspective eliminates victimhood and replaces it with empowered, deliberate engagement with life. Ownership also demands courage. Decisions can produce uncertainty, risk, and potential failure, and facing these consequences requires bravery. Avoiding responsibility might feel easier in the moment, but it undermines growth and confidence. Accepting the full spectrum of outcomes, positive and negative, develops strength of character and cultivates self-trust. Courageous ownership demonstrates commitment to personal integrity and signals to yourself and others that you are fully engaged in your own life journey. Taking ownership involves proactive decision-making rather than passive reaction. Instead of waiting for circumstances to dictate your actions, consider alternatives, evaluate potential outcomes, and choose deliberately. Proactivity reduces wasted energy, prevents indecision, and fosters consistent forward momentum. By taking the initiative, you shape circumstances rather than being shaped by them, creating a trajectory of intentional achievement that reflects conscious choice rather than chance. Emotional control is essential in owning decisions. Many choices are influenced by fear, impulse, or frustration. Ownership requires observing emotions without being dominated by them, ensuring that decisions are rational, deliberate, and aligned with long-term goals. Emotional discipline allows for clearer judgment, more strategic planning, and better execution. Each decision becomes a reflection of values and objectives rather than a reaction to fleeting feelings, reinforcing control over personal destiny. Taking ownership also strengthens problem-solving abilities. When you accept responsibility for outcomes, you are compelled to find solutions rather than rationalize failures or wait for external rescue. Challenges are approached systematically, analyzing root causes, exploring alternatives, and implementing corrective actions. This proactive problem-solving mindset develops competence, adaptability, and confidence, as each solution achieved demonstrates capability and reinforces the principle that results are within your influence. Ownership is closely tied to time management. Each decision about how to spend hours, energy, and attention carries consequences. By accepting responsibility for these choices, you prioritize tasks that produce meaningful results and eliminate activities that waste resources. Time becomes a tool for intentional growth, rather than a passive flow in which you drift along with circumstances. Ownership converts every hour into a conscious investment in your long-term objectives, increasing both efficiency and satisfaction. The communication reflects ownership as well. How you interact with others, express intentions, and convey decisions demonstrates responsibility for your choices. Clear, honest, and deliberate communication prevents misunderstandings, establishes expectations, and models accountability. When others observe that you stand behind your words and decisions, respect and trust are reinforced. Ownership in communication ensures that relationships, both personal and professional, are guided by integrity and clarity rather than avoidance or ambiguity. Ownership reinforces consistency. The ability to consistently align actions with decisions strengthens credibility and influence. When choices are made deliberately and followed through faithfully, patterns of reliability emerge. This consistency demonstrates competence and builds momentum, as each fulfilled commitment serves as tangible evidence of intentionality. Others respond naturally to consistent ownership, following suit and mirroring the discipline and intentionality observed. Reflection is an ongoing component of ownership. After decisions are made, evaluating the outcomes provides insight for future actions. Identify what worked, what did not, and why. This iterative process of assessment and adjustment ensures that decision-making improves over time and that past errors inform future strategy. Ownership is reinforced through reflection because it ties consequences directly to personal choice and action, creating a cycle of continuous improvement. Ownership extends to personal growth. Each decision about learning, skill development, and self-care shapes long-term capacity. By taking responsibility for your growth, you ensure that actions are purposeful, incremental, and cumulative. Engaging in deliberate practice, pursuing knowledge, and cultivating health all become intentional decisions rather than optional activities. Ownership in these areas guarantees that effort directly translates into competence, resilience, and opportunity. Boundaries and selective commitment are part of owning decisions. Recognizing that not every request, opportunity, or distraction aligns with priorities enables conscious choice in what to accept and what to decline. Ownership involves evaluating trade-offs, understanding consequences, and choosing paths that reinforce goals and values. By controlling commitments strategically, energy is preserved for meaningful actions, and outcomes reflect conscious prioritization rather than overextension. Ownership requires learning from failures without defensiveness. Mistakes are inevitable, but treating them as data rather than judgments allows for corrective measures and growth. Accepting responsibility for missteps creates the conditions for improvement rather than excuses or stagnation. Each failure becomes a lesson embedded in experience, strengthening judgment, reinforcing resilience, and enhancing the quality of future decisions. Ultimately, taking ownership of personal decisions empowers autonomy. Life becomes a series of intentional steps, each shaped by conscious choice rather than circumstance or external influence. This autonomy fosters self-respect, confidence, and clarity of direction. The practice of ownership ensures that outcomes are meaningful, strategies are refined, and growth is continuous. By fully embracing responsibility for decisions, individuals transform their agency into consistent action, mastery, and achievement, establishing a life governed by purpose, integrity, and deliberate progression rather than drift, chance, or dependency.